There's a liquid in your house right now that liter for liter costs more than champagne, more than a vintage perfume. By some estimates, it's one of the most expensive liquids you will ever buy in your life. And it's sat in a cupboard, in a little plastic box, and it's printer ink. And I know how that sounds, so here's the part that made me actually stop and go, hang on. The company that sold you that ink also sold you the printer. And they sold you the printer at a loss, on purpose. They lost money handing you the machine, so they could make it all back, and then some, on the ink. And I'm not guessing at that. The boss of HP, one of the biggest printer companies on Earth, stood up at Davos, that big posh conference where important people say quiet things out loud, and said, and I'm quoting him, "We lose money on the hardware, we make money on the supplies." So that's the game, said out loud by the man running it. The printer was never really the thing they were selling you. The ink was. The printer is just the delivery method. And once you see it that way, everything about your printer that's ever annoyed you, the fake empty warnings, the please insert color, the way it dies the exact week you need it, stops looking like bad design. It starts looking like a business model. So let me show you how the whole thing actually works, because it's genuinely one of the most elegant little traps going. It goes back to a razor salesman, a bloke called King Gillette. That was genuinely his first name, King, who worked out the trick that half the modern economy now runs on. Give away the razor cheap and sell the blades forever. The handle's a one-off. The blades are for life. That's where the money is. And once you know the shape of that, you spot it everywhere. The games console sold at a loss so they can sell you the games. The coffee machine that only takes its own little pods. The electric toothbrush where the replacement heads somehow cost more than the toothbrush did. Cheap thing gets you in the door. Expensive thing gets you for years. And the printer is the purest version of it that exists. Think about what's actually inside a printer. Motors, rollers, a print head doing something absurd like laying down thousands of dots per inch. It is a genuinely complicated machine, and it cost you, what, 40 quid. And then a set of ink for it costs you 60. The ink costs more than the machine that's engineered to spray it. That is not normal. That only makes sense if the machine was the free sample and the ink is the actual product. And they start working you the second you get it home. Because that ink that comes in the box with a brand new printer, it's not a full set. It's a starter cartridge, which is a lovely word for barely any. A normal cartridge might do you a few hundred pages. The one in the box does about 40. And it always seems to run out at the worst possible moment. The boarding pass you need in 20 minutes. The form that's due today. You bought the printer specifically so you'd never be caught short, and the first thing it does is catch you short. And that's not them being stingy by accident. That's the first hit. Get you set up, get you relying on it, and let the panic of a dry cartridge march you back to the shop, which is where the real prices are. Now here's one that's wound up basically everyone alive. You go to print one page. Black text, white paper, nothing fancy. And the printer folds its arms and tells you it can't because the yellow's low. The yellow. On a black and white page, you don't need yellow. You can see you don't need yellow. And it won't budge. The obvious reason is that it keeps you buying every color, even for jobs that don't touch them. And that's part of it. But hold on to that yellow, because it's doing something you've genuinely never noticed on a single page you've ever printed. And we'll come back to it, because it's the strangest part of this whole thing. First though, the bit that stops being cheeky and gets properly dark. Every modern ink cartridge has a tiny microchip on it, and that chip isn't there for you. It's there to stop you escaping. Because here's the thing people worked out years ago. Ink is just ink. Other companies can make a cartridge with the same stuff in it and sell it for a fraction of the price. And for a while they did. A whole industry of cheaper ink sprang up, and the big printer firms hated it, because every cheap cartridge was money walking straight out of their pockets. So HP did something that I still think is a bit extraordinary when you say it plainly. They pushed out a firmware update. And firmware update sounds like nothing. Like a little tidy-up, a security patch. The sort of thing you click yes to without reading. Except this one had a job. It quietly told printers to stop accepting anyone else's ink. So picture it. You bought the printer. It's yours. It's sitting on your desk. And one day, after an update you never asked for and definitely never read, it just stops taking the cheaper ink. Not with an honest message like, "We'd prefer your money now." It throws up non-HP chip detected and refuses to print, with a cartridge that was working perfectly fine yesterday. A machine you own disabling itself because you had the cheek to buy ink from someone else. And this hasn't gone unnoticed. HP's been taken to court over it more than once. In the US, they settled a big case, without paying customers a penny, and without admitting they did anything wrong, though they did agree to let some printers refuse those updates. Over in Italy, regulators were less relaxed about it and fined them around $12 million. So this isn't me being dramatic. This is a documented, litigated, fined in at least one country thing. And quickly, if this is landing, if you're side-eyeing your own printer right now, a like genuinely helps this reach other people who think it's just them, and you can subscribe if you fancy more of this sort of thing. Right, that yellow ink. Here's what I promised you. Your printer is very probably hiding a secret code on every page you print. Tiny yellow dots, too faint for your eye to pick out, scattered across the blank parts of the page, and arranged in a pattern that spells out the serial number of your printer, and the date, and the time it was printed. On everything. Your boarding pass, a letter, that mildly passive-aggressive note you printed for your flatmate about the washing up. All quietly stamped with a code that leads back to your exact machine at the exact minute. And this isn't a late-night internet theory. Researchers have been decoding these dots since 2005. It's got a proper name, printer steganography, and it's been built into a lot of color printers for years. The official reason being so a document can be traced back to the machine it came from. Now, to be fair, it's faded a bit. Some newer printers have moved away from it. So I'm not telling you your printer is definitely spying on your shopping lists. The point is smaller and honestly weirder than a big conspiracy. The machine on your desk has for years been signing its own name onto everything you print, in a color it made sure you couldn't see, and it only pulls that off if you keep the yellow topped up. Which is why all this time it's refused to print in plain black without it. That "please insert color" wasn't about the black and white page at all. So step back and look at what you've actually got. You went into a shop thinking you were buying a printer. What you walked out with was a subscription with extra steps. To a liquid you're not allowed to buy cheaply, at a price you're not allowed to question. Inside a machine that's also quietly noting down what you print. You thought you bought a thing. You rented a relationship. So what do you do about it? A couple of things and one warning. If you print a decent amount, stop buying inkjet cartridges and get a proper ink tank printer, or a laser one. You pay more up front, and then ink more or less stops being a line in your life. That's how you beat the razor and blades trick. You just refuse the cheap razor and pay honestly for the machine instead. And if you're stuck with the printer you've got, be careful before you accept a firmware update. Some of them genuinely are helpful. Some of them are the trap closing. It's worth a 10-second search of what an update actually does before you click yes on the thing that might brick your cheap ink. And here's the warning, because there's a trap hidden inside the escape route. HP, and others, will happily offer you a subscription. Instant Ink, it's called. You pay a monthly fee, they post you cartridges before you run out, no more panic trips to the shop. Sounds like the fix, doesn't it? Except look at what's actually happened. You're not buying ink anymore, you're renting it. Monthly. Forever. They've taken you out of the shop and put you on a direct debit. And an HP executive more or less admitted the whole point was locking customers in. The trip to the shop was annoying, but at least when you're in the shop, you can walk out. So, next time you open that cupboard and look at that little plastic box, you'll know what you're actually looking at. Not ink. A 100-year-old sales trick, a microchip designed to trap you, and a machine that's been quietly signing its work in invisible yellow the whole time. All for a bit of colored water that costs more than champagne. Tell me in the comments what your last set of cartridges cost you. And be honest, because I know some of you have paid genuinely offensive amounts. I want to know if anyone's cracked 80 quid. See you in the next one.